This is spiderwort, extremely invasive. This is what's left after it was completely removed last year. Hello, welcome back to Master Gardening. I'm your host, Bud Qualk, and we're at the home of Master Gardener Dick Roberts and his wife Sue today, and you can see their beautiful garden. This has survived the ice storm, a hurricane, and this year it's tornado season. So stay tuned, we'll be right back. Okay, Dick, let's look at your rose garden first. This is pretty unique with the archway and the hedges, and you've got all your roses here in one spot. I bet there's how old is this? How long have you?
It's about 10 years. I had always wanted a formal rose garden. And wife and I bought this property. We realized we had a good place for it. And so I laid it out and put it in about 10 years ago. Interesting story though, in laying it out. First thing I did was to stake it. This is 40 by 40 feet. But then I was going to till it and amend the soil. Well, I had to take the stakes up to till it.
So you lost your place
again.
again.
I lost my place. Took a while to reestablish that. But anyway, I amended the soil, laid it out, got the hedges as small as we could for two reasons. One, they're cheaper. Took about 200.
No.
Yeah. And second, easier to put in.
Yeah.
So we put them in, put down landscape fabric. We didn't want to have to make 200 cuts, so we folded it, cut it like paper dolls.
So you covered the whole thing with landscape before you even got
Correct.
started?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then of course mulch on top of that. But minimizes the weeding problem.
How'd you plant all those? How many plants was it? Two.
Oh, 40. Oh, you mean the
hedges.
hedge? About 200, 210. Took a post hole digger, went around. Post hole digger is good for anything that's in a pot.
That's exactly right for our viewers. That if you don't have a post hole digger, you really need a post hole digger. They're perfect for planting.
Yeah, they move the dirt out of the way.
Yeah, it's simpler for
I walked on.
They've been over.
about 2 scoops was enough for the plant. Put them in, watered them in. My wife came along, did a mud dance, compact them well.
Sue,
Yeah.
your wife Sue.
Mm-hmm. So all that worked out well. The hedge came out well. Then planted the roses.
And how'd you plant the roses then? You get the landscape. You got the mulch already down.
Correct. Well, you push the mulch back, and then of course cut an X
In the landscape.
in the fabric, fold it back under, and again a post hole digger.
Uh-huh.
Now that was bigger plants, a lot more digging. My son was home from college then, and that was a good
took
project
advantage
for
of him?
him. Oh yes.
Yeah.
Use all the help you can get. That's
Oh yeah.
one of the things any gardener should know.
Well, they really look well, and I can see it's just rained. Perfect timing. It's just rained, so you can see all the petals on the floor, and a lot of the roses are gone. Just yesterday, they were a lot more. But you can tell that how many roses you got here, and some of the blooms are just beautiful. And down on this end, it looks like they're a little bit more puny because
Doesn't have the sun.
another sun.
Yeah,
So-
that's one of the things that we learned as we developed it out here. Now, just recently, I lost a tree nearby. That's unfortunate. I hate to lose a tree.
Bad
Wind
news, you
blew it
lost a
over.
tree, but the good news is,
It'll open up the garden some more.
yeah, get some more sun. So these roses will do better down here.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now this rose right here, it's got a couple of nice roses on it, but it probably needs to be deadheaded. And I'm sure unless you've got a bunch of roses, most people can find the time to deadhead. If you deadhead, you get more blooms, right?
Well, for example, I deadheaded Wednesday, but the rain has knocked off petals, and so it needs to be
So
done
all these are gone since Wednesday.
Yeah. And when you deadhead or prune or cut back for any reason, you want to cut back to a place where it's more likely to grow. And that's going to be where you have a stem coming out with multiple leaves. The rule usually is you look for something with 5 leaves. I think I can, show a place here. All these need to come off. So I can come back here. Now, if you can find 7 leaves, that's better. If you can only find 3, that's better than none. But you sort of aim for 5. And that joint will promote the growth.
7 leaves is better. I didn't know that. I learned something today.
Yeah, I mean, it's more leaves, more stimulation. Now, you got a situation like this, where there's a nice blossom here. I don't want to go back to 5 leaves and lose that, so I just go
Just
up
nip
here.
that off of there. Okay.
But here's another one where I can go back to 5.
Yeah, yeah.
You can see I need to do a lot of this. Now, get out here. Some of these get big, and
this
they
is getting out
actually
of
get
control
in
here.
the way. And so I'll come out and cut a lot of these back, mainly so I can get around weed,
Traffic.
do what I have to. And again, you go back to 5 or 7 leaves. So
Now, I've been told that you cut it at an angle, but for the water to run off.
Yeah.
But that's hard to do sometimes when
oh yeah.
when you pick this, you don't know how it's going to end up after you get done cutting it. But cut it at an angle if you possibly can.
Well, yeah, and often in gardening, there's a perfect way to do it and a way that works.
And yeah, because I work full time, so you got so much time. You got to do what you got to do.
It's just like when you're supposed to plant certain seed. A seed that's planted at the wrong time has a lot better chance of germinating than one that's never planted at all. So go ahead.
That's right. That's right. You know, I got to remember that one.
Yeah. So go ahead and do things at the wrong time.
Now, when you plant these or replace the ones that are dead, back in the old days, you bought a rose bush. It always was bare root.
Oh yeah.
So you had to dig the hole, build the pyramid, and put the bare roots around the pyramid and all that junk. But nowadays, everything comes in pots. You can plant it anytime you want to and plant it just basically the same as any other pot.
Much easier. And in fact, one company a few years ago began putting out roses in biodegradable cardboard cartons. You just planted the whole carton.
Throw it in there.
And it had a season's worth of fertilizer built in also. So yeah, anything you can do to make it easier, do it.
Now, you also want to plant it exactly the same level, but I like to cheat a little bit and plant mine about a ½ inch to an inch lower. At least the first year, you'll have that water wants to drain in there because we have the droughts around here in western Kentucky. We have the droughts.
Come July and August, you need all the help on the watering you can get.
Okay, and I'm going to ask you this, and this is again, they recommend, because we have so much fungus around here, that you spray once a week with a fungicide to prevent the fungus and the black spot. And they also recommend that you get 2 different fungicides and rotate them in western Kentucky only.
I rotate because you don't want the plant to build an immunity.
Well, you do that.
I do it when I have to.
Okay.
Now again, I'll give the fungus a little bit.
Yeah.
As long as I don't think it's endangering the health of the plant, I'll tolerate some.
You can't see that very much, but that little brown spot is called black spot.
Yeah.
And it's a soil-borne fungus. It's in the soil. It doesn't come from the air and that kind of thing. And so you got to be careful when you water, right? You don't want to splash. If you splash it up on the plant, you're done.
Well, I'll tolerate some. If it gets bad enough, though, I'll begin spraying. I'll spray once a week. I'll alternate kinds of fungicide. And because it is ground-borne, spray the ground as well as the plant.
That's exactly right. Try to get both sides of the leaves. And once you get it, some people go around and clip those off. You got to be careful not to touch other things, though, because you're going to spread it like that when you do it. So you
need
catch
to burn
22.
it in some way, get rid of it.
Put it in a trash can. That's what I do, because if you burn it sometimes, I feel those things.
They
I don't know. I don't know. I'm not an expert on the fungus, but yeah. Well,
but I do tolerate some fungus.
And the mulch helps too, because they recommend maybe up to 3 inches of mulch. That keeps the soil-borne stuff from getting up on the roses as quickly. But no matter what you do around here, you are going to get some black spot.
That's right.
Somehow you're going to get it.
And you live with it unless it just gets intolerable.
Yeah. And then you prune it all the way back to the ground, and it'll come back fine again. I've done that. Look, it looks that bad. Well, you've got a wonderful water feature over here. Let's go over there and take a look at this pond.
We'll be glad to do that.
Okay. What is that she's throwing in there, Dick?
Oh, that's fish food. Commercial fish food.
Just
like
commercial fish food? Not corn on the cob or anything like that,
No.
huh?
Buy it in 50-pound bags.
How many fish did you start out with?
6 goldfish, 2 black moors.
Well, it looks like a couple of them have mated, I think. No, you think?
Seems to be constant.
So you've got dozens and dozens of them down there. So If you don't feed them, you've got to feed them now, or can they make it on their own?
They can make it on their own, but they
Okay.
enjoy the food.
So the food is just for fun and the novelty.
Yeah, well, and I think maybe it adds some nutrients that they wouldn't have otherwise.
Yeah. Well, they're all different colors. You've ever tried koi? Koi, or are those real expensive
I had
ones?
koi at a previous place. I liked them. They grow a little larger, but they are very aggressive and will eat the pond plants, roots and all.
Oh my gosh.
So
Okay.
koi are beautiful. It's a great fish, but it's a trade-off.
Yeah. Well, you've got a few nice plants here. Were you telling me that these will all get bigger? This is kind of the spring.
That's
of the
correct.
year.
They'll continue to spread. Plus, I'll have some water lettuce and water hyacinth that'll cover the pond, and that will help me control the algae.
It'll cover the whole pond?
Oh, yeah. As a matter of fact, when it starts spreading, we have to systematically take some out, or else it could choke out the pond.
I'll be darned.
It'll spread that much. But that'll block out the sun, be able to control the algae that way. Now, an alternative way of controlling algae is to put in blue dye, but then you can't see in the water, just like the green
It just
algae.
looks like this, except it's blue.
Yeah, so I don't find that helps.
So it's just, and it's clearer than you think. I can see the fish down in there, but it's you can never have this perfectly clear like a swimming pool.
Oh,
You really
no.
wouldn't want it like that.
That's right, because this is a biosystem.
Right, you'd kill everything if you put all those chemicals
Yeah,
in there.
and you know, it's starting with one cell life and working on up the ladder. So
How old's this? How long have you had this in here? This looks like, to me, something like this looks like a lot of work. It's like a swimming pool if you want to make it part of your life.
no.
No?
I'll go in once a week to clear the filter on a water feature like that. Occasionally, well, I need to do a little work on the rocks. Sometimes I have to trim back in there so you can see the waterfall. And I noticed the wind blew my light around so it doesn't shine on the waterfall as much. I have to do that.
We've had a lot of wind here lately.
Yeah. And sometime I'll be repotting and dividing some of these plants just like you do land plants.
So it's not that much work once you get it set up.
That's correct.
Now, it was a lot of work probably to start out with, to get all these stones and
Oh,
everything.
yeah.
in
And of course, I hired that done.
No, you hired it done, Dick?
I hired done anything I can.
Now, I don't know if I've mentioned it, you're a master gardener.
That's correct.
Okay, yeah. You hired somebody.
Yes,
Okay.
indeed.
All right. I thought that was against the rules.
No.
No?
No, particularly the older I get.
Shh, don't say that. Jeez. Okay. Well, what, in the wintertime, have you got something special you have to do in the wintertime?
No.
Just leave it like this?
2 feet of water, fish will survive. They basically hibernate, or metabolism goes way down.
Slow way down.
Once water gets 40 degrees, you don't feed them anymore.
Okay.
And just ignore it.
All winter long, and then it comes back like how about the plants? They just go
Same
into,
thing.
they just come back next
Yeah.
year.
Now, there are some tropical plants that will not overwinter.
But you don't have any here.
That's correct. The water
Smart move.
water lettuce and the water hyacinth, something I have to renew, have to buy again every year. But no, these are all hardy plants, the perennials, and they come back and have to be divided time to time.
Okay, I've known of raccoons coming in and eating the fish. Do you ever have any trouble with raccoons or any of those kind of varmints?
Not really. The fish know the territory better than the raccoons do.
Oh, they can hide.
And so
huh?
they hide. Now, 2 or 3 times we have had a heron come through.
That would be great.
Oh
wouldn't it?
yeah, they're huge.
He lands in here?
Yeah, lands in here and has lunch.
I'll be
moves
darned.
on. You see him reach down and get a fish.
You've got any pictures of those?
No, never could get a picture.
Oh, yeah, next time, get a picture. We can put it in
we've
the
been-
show.
Okay, we've been trying to catch one. They usually come, in late fall, early winter when they're migrating south.
Okay, okay. And you say the girls like to swim in here in the summertime?
No,
They
they're
don't?
told to be very careful not to fall in because these rocks aren't stable.
It's really not that deep, is it?
2 feet
2 feet
with
deep?
a 1 foot ledge around the
Okay,
outside.
so it'd only be about to their waist anyway, so it'd be pretty safe.
No, yeah, they'll just be messy.
Yeah, be nasty.
Yeah, that's
Smelly.
right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they like to come feed the fish.
I can see your vegetable garden from here. Let's grab Dan and John and run down there and let's see what
Okay,
you got.
very good.
Thanks,
you, girls.
Thanks, ladies.
Well, this is an example, again, of my compromise gardening.
This is a master gardener's garden, Dick?
That's right. I just try
right.
to keep these plants ahead of the weeds,
Ahead
and
of the
if I
weeds.
can find them and pick them.
They're pretty well done for the year. This is cold weather
That's
plants,
correct.
And they're already spent. But Dan said that this is what his garden looks like.
Well, no.
No.
After I harvest, I'll till it under, and then plant a succession of whatever I'll put back in there, probably some hot weather lettuce, New Zealand spinach, something like that. So I don't try to keep this weeded as much as I would say a flower garden for show.
Garden. This is back in the corner of your yard, and nobody sees this unless you want them to.
That's correct.
That's good.
Now up here though, of course, I have the black plastic, and that takes care of the weeding.
Now, you probably did a lot more work down here keeping this looking like this than you did.
That's right.
This was a lot easier to make it look like this.
Once you get the plastic in, that's it.
You're done.
You also notice I have a soaker hose.
Soaker hose.
That's under the plastic, so in our very hot, dry weather in July and August, I can get water to it as needed.
Now, can you walk out of here on
yes,
this?
yeah.
Okay, this is okay to walk out here on this. Oh, and what have you? I see some watermelon here just getting started, and there's these labels that have initials on them. What does that mean?
Oh, that's
evergreen.
No, that's my wife's granddaughters, Emma and Madeline.
Oh, the fish food girls.
Yes, and they like to come out and plant things. As a matter of fact, these are what they call the emmelopes, and they also have Maddie melons.
Their
down
names.
there.
So they have their initials on there. They know that's the plant that they planted.
Plus they planted this cabbage, but you'll look around, tomatoes, peppers,
They all have their initials on them.
and they've all planted one of each.
Now, this is not the first year they've done this.
Oh no, this is about the 5th year, and each year you can tell that they know more about what they're doing, they're more dexterous, they dig the hole faster, yeah, just growing
Less
with it.
supervision.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah. Are they helpful on the weeding though? I bet. No.
Surprisingly, they are.
Yeah.
Came out here the other day and they were kneeling down, pulling grass out. A little grass worked through those holes.
That's so nice because I know when I was young, my dad forced me to work in the field, in the potato patch and what have you, and I didn't care for it at all. I didn't want to have anything to do with the garden, but the first thing I did when I got married was plant tomatoes, and then I was off and running.
Well, and it's a function of age and maturity.
Yeah.
But I urge anyone who has children, grandchildren around, let them put in a few plants. They need to know that food comes from the ground,
Not from the
the
grocery
soup.
store.
That's right. Have an appreciation of it. Plus, they learn a lot of practical botany that way.
Yes, they do. And a respect for nature.
Correct.
When you sit down at the table at night, that plate in front of you has traveled on average 1,500 miles to get to your table. So to have your own garden and just walk out and get those tomatoes and peppers or whatever, or go to the farmer's market or the local nursery
That's
or one of
right.
those places, a roadside stand, so much better, cuts down on the oil and all that cost. It's just ridiculous. 1,500 miles on average.
I didn't start vegetable gardening until, a good bit later in life. But once I did, I found out that my mother's father, my grandfather, who had died before I was born and I never knew, had been a truck gardener for years.
Sold these plants.
Yeah, but when he married, needed a more reliable income, he gave that up, went to work for the railroad.
Ah.
But my grandfather had been a truck farmer for many years.
Yeah. Well, I used to have a acre up in Illinois. I had a big, that was work. I couldn't do that today. But let's see what some of the things you got here. What are these right here? These climbing beans?
Yeah, those are Kentucky Wonder pole beans.
And why do you grow Kentucky Wonders?
Because my wife won't accept anything else. She says the taste is not the same. I've tried the Blue Lakes, I've tried the Ken Blues, which are stringless. They're less trouble, but they just don't have the taste of Kentucky Wonders.
So Sue insists that you grow these, and she has to string these things, which a lot of people won't do that anymore.
Well, they're not that much trouble to string. The trick on that is letting them be ripe when you pick them. When they're ripe, the string comes off in one nice, good pull.
Okay, yeah. Well,
And it's worth the effort.
Now this wasn't, I came by and saw you about a week ago, and these were just little tiny plants, man. Then they're really taking off with this. It's awful cool. This is a cool spring we're having and a really wet spring. The wet spring's a good thing, but the cool, a lot of my plants didn't like the cool weather this year.
Now this plastic helps in that regard. It may add 5 to 10 degrees centigrade to the heat.
That's right, the plastic heats the bed up, that's right.
And by putting in the beans as early as I can, I'll harvest them first week or two of July and plant a second crop here.
Now that's a bunch of beans right there. Did she do some canning?
Yeah, well, we freeze them.
Freeze them.
Again, that's my compromise gardening. Canning is better, but freezing is
quicker
easier, and it works.
Yeah. Now these tomatoes, is there a special kind of tomato you grow?
Oh, no.
Since you're a master gardener, I figured you'd have special varieties.
No, these are Sweet 100, the cherries, some beef masters, and early girls. And I don't know why I'm growing them, actually. I haven't been able to harvest a tomato in 2 or 3 years.
What?
The squirrels beat me to them. I even tried putting...
They take your tomatoes before you get them?
Yeah, I've even tried putting hot pepper spray on there, and the squirrels came out with a pitcher of margaritas and a guitar and had a fiesta.
But they steal your tomatoes before you can pick them.
That's
You're
correct.
the first person I've ever heard say that.
Oh, no, in fact, though, they're picking them increasingly early. At one time, they waited until they got ripe, but now they take them green.
They pick the whole thing and carry it away, or they eat it right there on the spot?
Yeah, you'll see squirrels sitting up in that tree.
Eating a tomato?
Yeah.
You need a camera. You need to get pictures of these things. Okay, well the Sweet 100 is one of my favorites. Back when I was a test gardener, I got to test that the first year it came out.
Oh, yeah.
And I have grown that ever since. It is rated #1 every year in tomato taste and sweetness. Now the skin gets a little bit cracked in the heat of the summer, but that's well worth it to get the best tomato taste and the sweetness.
And it's something you can munch on while you're doing the other garden
Yeah,
work.
you can eat them right there, pop them right there while you're, you normally don't bite into a big, huge beefsteak, but beefsteaks are my favorite too. I've got beefsteaks, and for the first year in a long time, I'm going big boys again. I've been the big beef and the brandy boys and all those different things, but I've come back to big boy just to see how that is this year.
Yeah, well, my squirrels like these.
They give you a list. These are our favorites. Yeah. So you go around sometimes and you'll look at the base of a tree and there'll be some tomato rinds laying at the bottom of the tree.
Oh, yeah. Now down front here are Brussels sprouts.
Brussels sprouts, like it's hard to tell the difference in that and cabbage and broccoli sometimes. Broccoli a little bit different. But do you, what do you do with those to keep the bugs off? Because I got the worms get to mine.
Haven't had that much of a problem, but when needed, I'll spray with 7. I like to use 7 because it's non-systemic. It is not getting the plant itself.
Right.
And it has a relatively short life, so the toxicity does not stay around.
It's one of the safer ones.
Correct.
Compared to all the other ones. That's exactly what I use, and I don't use the dust on anything except for my cabbages, and I put a little dust on there. 5%, which is even better. That's really just a little bit.
You want them, and I'll give the insects or the birds or whatever some of my vegetables.
They can't have it all.
Just can't have it all.
Except for the tomatoes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they just take them.
Well, I can't grow the cole crops, the cabbage and broccoli, without a little dust because the worms are so bad. Well, the worms are so good. Caterpillars are good, okay, because they make butterflies. So you've got to need to plant some plants to promote the caterpillars, which is your parsley and your fennel and your dill and all those things if you want a lot of butterflies in your garden. Hopefully they'll stay on those and stay the heck away from your cabbages and your broccoli.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, we've got to see, at least take a look at this clematis. You've got
It's
got a number of clematis, and I want to talk about clematis because I've got a bunch of them in my yard and a bunch of wives' tales about clematis that aren't true, I don't think. So let's go back over here.
Okay, just...
This is beautiful. This looks almost exactly like what I've got in front of my house. And I like to mix and match the colors because you get varying blooming times, right?
And when they bloom together, you got a mixture of colors.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. But have you ever tried deadheading these things?
No, occasionally after they're all spent, we can get to them easier. We'll cut some off, but it's a trade-off between how much work you want and your pleasure.
Once you start, there's 1,000 of these things,
Yeah.
suckers on here, but it reblooms, and if you don't, sometimes you've lost it. Yeah, so they're so beautiful, but you're right. If you want to deadhead these, you better spend the afternoon.
That's right. Yeah.
Now, in the wintertime, this is in a pot, and I've
Correct.
never seen a clematis in a pot, but I'm going to try it. Next year, I'm going to have a clematis in a pot.
That was my wife's idea, and it's worked beautifully.
It really loves it. And you take it inside in the wintertime, right?
No, we have a sort of niche over here protected from the wind.
Okay.
We leave it there. Probably gets a little residual heat from the house, but it winters over just as is.
I'll be darned.
Now, you know, some clematis are more sensitive to the cold than others. Okay. This particular variety works well.
Yeah. This ficus doesn't stay outside though, does it?
Oh, no, we take it in. And of course, it took me a while to figure this out, but it's much easier to trim it outside than once you get inside.
Yeah.
Also easier
I would
to
have
carry
guessed.
it.
I would have guessed that. I've got a bunch of clematis at home, all over the yard. I love them, but there's different rules about different clematis, and how do you know which one's which, and how do you know how to prune them? I've just finally decided at the wintertime when it dies back, I cut them all off at the ground level, and they all seem to like it. I haven't found one that didn't like it.
This is all this year's growth.
So you cut it
was
back
cut
on
back.
at the bottom
Yeah.
too? Okay.
Now, we have some in the ground, like on the trellis over there, that we do not cut back.
Okay. Okay. Well, I want to get a picture of your setup in the basement, so we got to
Okay.
hurry. Let's run down there real quick.
Okay?
Okay, Dick, this is your greenhouse.
That's correct.
And people say, I can't grow plants from seed because I don't have a greenhouse or all this stuff. This heated garage, utility room, yours is in your basement. This is very unusual. I grew some like under these lights like that with a chain open and raised them lower with that. This copper tubing, that's expensive.
Well, I'd had just 2 lights, and they really didn't give me enough light. But I had a friend who's very handy. He make most anything. Told him what I wanted, and he said, sure, I can knock that together one day out of scrap material that I have. So he showed up one day with this. I said, great.
You can grow a bunch of plants under this thing
Oh,
now.
yeah.
These ropes, and this is an elaborate rope system you got here. That's to raise it up so you
Sure.
slowly keep it just barely above the plants, right?
And being fluorescent lights, you don't have a heat problem you would with an incandescent light. Therefore, you can have it right up next against the plant.
Okay, well, you also have a timer on this, right?
Yes, so I'm not going to walk up and down the stairs to plug and unplug.
Okay.
So I put it on the timer. I've been doing it 16 hours a day of light.
Okay, we're out of time, Dick.
Well, thank you
so
for coming
much.
by. We enjoyed it.
Yeah, okay, this is Bud Qualk, your host for Master Gardening. Tune in next time. Until then, good gardening.